Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cinemaholic Productions Meeting 003. My name is Spencer Henderson, and I am a cinemaholic.
My name is Ryan, and I as well am a cinemaholic. And today we are going to be talking about specifically our top 10 favorite movies of 2016, plus a little bit of honorable mentions at the beginning.
That's right, Ryan. And these movies today are going to be in no particular order. But how we will be structuring this is we will be going from month to month to describe our picks and talk about our picks. And some of us might have more picks in months than others, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. We're going to start off by talking about our honorable mentions. Sorry, never learned to speak. Ryan, do you have any honorable mentions to talk about?
I do. This year has kind of been a weak year for movies. It's been the year of the horror film, and it's been the year of the indie movies. So I was kind of surprised when I actually had so many honorable mentions, and these aren't necessarily in my top 10, obviously, but they are movies that I would suggest, if you haven't seen them, to go check them out. And I'm not going to go too in depth on any of them. I'm just going to go ahead and read my list. I've got it up here on my screen. So in no particular order, some honorable mentions of 2016 would be, first of all, Knight of Cups, which was it was a fantastic Terrence Malick movie. We've got Love and Friendship, which was originally a Sundance movie that came out recently. Zootopia, it's just a fun animated movie. Now, I think some of these are actually going to be on your top 10. We've got The Witch, which was actually a Sundance movie a year ago, and then it released this year. The Nice Guys, Don't Breathe, Sully, Deepwater Horizon, and wrapping up the list, The Complete Unknown. So, do you have any honorable mentions that you want to talk about, or any comments on my honorable mentions?
Yeah, so just one of the things that I was talking to you about before is I actually forgot to mention Sully. I feel horrible about doing so because I really enjoyed Sully. I thought that it was a very well acted, well directed. Well, I shouldn't say very well, but it was serviceable at least. And I found myself thrilled by the sequences in that movie, particularly the plane sequence. And I say sequences because it shows that plane sequence several times. My honorable mentions actually both come from the month of August. The first one that I'm going to be talking about is Don't Breathe. This is a movie that I had not seen any sort of marketing for before I actually had just seen the poster. And from seeing the poster and just going off the title, and I had heard something that there was a blind guy in the movie. That's basically all I had heard about it. And after watching it, this is one of those movies that you really wish that you had come up with the concept. I won't go into too many details with it because it's an honorable mention, but I enjoyed the heck out of this movie. It's flawed. That's why it's not in my top 10, but it is a well-done horror movie and a good follow-up to the 2013 Evil Dead. My other honorable mention is Sausage Party, which might seem like a ridiculous pick at first. And the truth is it is, and I am a little bit ashamed to say that I enjoyed this movie as much as I did. But there were some very interesting social commentary jokes throughout the entire movie that I found very interesting. So I would highly recommend people check out Sausage Party. It is extremely crass, but I thought it was a lot of fun. So those are my honorable mentions.
I loved Sausage Party, and sitting in the theater, I was laughing my head off. It felt a little long. The beginning, you get all that, the swearing hot dog and whatnot, whatever, and it's really funny at first, and then it kind of drags on. But I'll tell you, the last 20 minutes of that movie is definitely a trip.
Yeah, definitely. The last 20 minutes are just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And actually, I might even argue it goes a little bit too far in that last 20 minutes. But if they do make a sequel for it, I'm curious to see what they do with it. that being said, you ready to get into the list?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So neither of us had any picks in January to start off by saying. Ryan, did you have any picks in February?
I did. I'm hoping you have this on your list, but my first pick for February is Deadpool, the most romantic movie of the year. It was on point. I loved and adored this movie, and I actually, when I'm driving, I either do a few things. I'll either listen to like musicals or something while I'm driving, or podcasts, or Deadpool. I'll just turn it on and let the volume go through my car, and I can quote a majority of this movie. It is so meta and on point with the humor, and even just kind of like the story of how this movie came to be. There's maybe one or two points in the movie that I will fast forward to through, but overall is just a very, very funny comedy. I would argue one of the best superhero movies ever made, and definitely one of the best comedies of this year. This is, if we were to rank them, this is probably my second favorite movie of the year.
Wow. You definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I did. I did enjoy Deadpool a lot. Don't get me wrong. I do think it is a very overrated movie. I thought that it was a very well executed film, and well structured. Ryan Reynolds did awesome as Deadpool. I had no complaints there. My biggest complaints were I just thought it was trying a little too hard at times to wink at the audience and nod at the audience. And I get that it broke the fourth wall a lot, and that wasn't my issue. It was kind of just some of the jokes didn't land with me, and it felt like it was a lot funnier than I think it actually was in lots of ways. So yeah, Deadpool actually didn't make my list, unfortunately.
That's so disappointing. But that's the thing with comedy, right? Is I think out of all genres, comedy is the most subjective, because some things do just land with you, some things don't. Deadpool definitely did hit with me. Did you have anything in February?
I did. Speaking of comedy, my next film is The Witch. Directed by Robert Eggers, and that was obviously a joke and maybe poorly tasted joke. But this actually, Robert Eggers last year at the 2015 Sundance Film Festival won Best Director for The Witch, and I really think it shows in this movie. He really does a great job of putting you into this time period. And all the actors also do a very, very good job of putting you into this time and place and just disturbing the heck out of you. There's like scenes in this movie that are so subtle with characters' actions that kind of pit your feelings against these characters that I just thought was masterfully acted. It had social commentary that I thought applied to today in The Witch as well. And not to mention, like, the last 30 minutes of this movie were pretty dang scary. So I would definitely recommend checking out The Witch if you have not seen it. Ryan, did you see The Witch?
I did. I actually hadn't heard about it until Sundance this year. I went, and Robert was there, and I met him, and he told me a little bit about it, and I immediately put it on my watch list. I have to admit, I am not a horror guy, and I up to this point in my life, I haven't gone to the theater to specifically seek out horror movies, but this one was on my list. I didn't catch it in the theater. I waited until I could watch it in my room with the lights on, but it was awesome, beautifully directed. I would say one of the best period pieces that is maybe even ever come out. I mean, it was very, very tastefully done. The Blu-ray commentaries on this, I would definitely suggest. Go out, get that Blu-ray, and you can listen to all of his thoughts as they did it, and some interesting things about costumes that they did. The lead girl, what was her name? Anna Taylor-Joy?
Yeah, it's like Anya Taylor-Joy, I believe.
Yeah, holy cow, she is going to have a future for sure. talking this, I know this is like a top 10, but one of the bombs of this year, in my opinion, Morgan. She was in Morgan, and she was the best part. I mean, you've got Kate Mara, and you've got so many good things that could have made Morgan good, but Anya Taylor-Joy was the highlight of that movie, as well as the witch. She did phenomenally, and I'm very interested to see what she's going to be doing in the future.
Definitely, definitely. So do you have any more movies to add for February?
No, nope, none for February.
Okay, let's move on to March. And I don't believe you have any movies in March, do you?
Nope.
Okay, and I actually do. I have one. That movie is 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who is a man whose career, funny enough, I've followed since I was in high school. Dan Trachtenberg was part of a show called The Totally Rad Show that was on Revision 3, which is a website just for kind of like geeky teenagers who liked movies like I did. And he reviewed movies, and I was a huge fan of him. And this is his directorial debut, and I think that it was a astonishing directorial debut. Particularly the first 2/3 of this movie are so tense and well acted and just well executed altogether. The big reveal at the end of the movie, even I know some people had problems with it. I personally didn't have problems with the big reveal in this movie. And John Goodman, man, if they would have released this later in the year, I really think he'd be in like Oscar talk. Yeah, so it's a shame that this came out as early as it did in the year, but actually did pretty well at the box office. And I really hope we get to see more from Dan Trachtenberg, because I thought it showed much promise as a genre film. Just as a hardcore sci-fi genre film, this movie was awesome. Ryan, did you see 10 Cloverfield Lane?
I did, and I was debating putting it on my honorable mentions. It was awesome. I haven't seen Cloverfield, so I didn't know much going into this. I just kind of went and saw it. I had heard a bunch of hype opening weekend, and so I went and saw it. It doesn't have too much to do with Cloverfield, except for it's in the same universe. It's very difficult to make a movie. It's even more difficult to make a good movie, and it's even more difficult to make a good movie in a room. And last year, one of my favorite movies of the year was Room. And the very beginning of that, it's so masterfully done, where you're just in room and you have to come up with creative things, like Buried with Ryan Reynolds. You're in this confined space, and it's so hard. And that was one of the huge highlights for me of 10 Cloverfield Lane. Was it takes place in a bunker, and I would say 98% of this movie is in this bunker in a room or two, and it's masterfully done. And I didn't know this was his directorial debut, so huge props to him. This was a phenomenal movie. It was closely supervised and produced by JJ Abrams. So that doesn't hurt. I mean, to have him there directing you and guiding you if you have any questions, but it was great.
Yeah, I actually don't know how closely it was directed, because I was listening to a podcast the other day, the Nerdist podcast by Chris Hardwick, with J.J. Abrams and Dan Trachtenberg about this film. And JJ said that this was very much Dan Trachtenberg's project, and he gave him a little pointers here and there, but he was actually very heavily involved in Star Wars Episode 7 at the time while this film was being made. And there were also rumors that this film at one point had not been involved in the Cloverfield universe at all, which was completely false. It had always been a Cloverfield spin-off movie. And I really like the idea that they're going for a Twilight Zone-esque type of universe for Cloverfield. That's super neat, and I really am really curious to see what comes next from Bad Robot in the Cloverfield universe. So now let's move on to April. Ryan, did you have any movies in April?
I do. I have two. Did you have you have one in April, right?
Oh, I have 4 in April.
You have 4. Okay. So I'll go with Sing Street first. Deadpool. I throw up the Deadpool poster. There's my Sing Street one. This is my favorite film of the year. I adore this movie, and it looks like you've got it on your list as well. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts about this. Directed by John Carney. I've only seen 3 of his movies. I don't know if he's directed more, but Once and Begin Again are
Yeah.
phenomenal. Begin Again won an Oscar for Best Original Song.
No, that
And
was Once actually
oh,
won
Once.
the best original song. Yeah, for
Oh,
Falling
Selma
Slowly.
won
Yeah.
against, but it was nominated. Um,
Yes.
and I think this one will be nominated, if not win. It's got some competition with La La Land coming out with a bunch of original music, and I think they will both be nominated. We'll see who's going to win in the end. But Sing Street is such a brilliant, beautiful coming of age movie, and I think John Carney does such a good job at that. It's a very low town, very low key movie. Takes place in Ireland, and it follows our lead as he progresses and he's growing up. He finds this girl, wants to gain her attention by creating a band, which they name Sing Street after the school that they attend. And it's just such. I've never been to Ireland, but I connected so well with all of the characters. It had such great humor. And I would say Ireland itself is a character which I somehow really related to. And that is a huge prop to the director, John Carney. Those are just kind of some of my thoughts. What are you thinking about this movie, Spencer?
Yeah, I'm basically just gonna echo everything you said. This movie is phenomenal. It's definitely one of my favorites. The year will for sure probably be on my top 10 list unless something really crazy happens, because I think this is John Carney's best movie, and I am a huge fan of Once. I thought Begin Again was good, but Once was a movie that just blew me away, and I didn't think he'd be able to top it. And here we are in 2016, he topped it. This is a period piece. The music is great. The kids are amazing. The performances across the board are just awesome. And this movie has a really infectiously joyful spirit that I found to be just incredibly good and rare in the movies in lots of ways nowadays. It kind of emulated lots of the John Hughes type of qualities of the 80s films. And it's just so great to see a movie like this and know that movies like this still are coming out and still exist. And there's still talents like John Carney who care about making something with actual substance in them. So yes, I totally agree with everything you said about Sing Street.
Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead on to my next one, if
Okay.
that's okay, and then we
Sure.
can wrap up your other two. Maybe this is on your list. Jungle Book. I adored this movie. Phenomenal, beautiful, directed by Jon Favreau, which he has just pumped out some really good ones, especially in the last few years. The most amazing thing about this movie, which knocked it into the top 10 for me, was the fact that they shot this 100% in LA in a green room in a soundstage. It was all done with visual effects. You had Jon Favreau, the crew, and this guy. What the boy in this, Mowgli, was phenomenal. Neil Sethi. It's such a phenomenal movie. The voice talent was amazing. It was a very good adaptation from the original, a remake of the original cartoon, which I think Disney has finally gotten right. They know what they're doing. They don't have to do an exact replica of the cartoon. Cinderella was really good in that aspect as well, of showing you this new tale, which is the same story, but you don't have to hit it beat by beat. You don't have to bring in all the songs and make it a musical. And they still find a way to bring those original songs into the new films. And I'm so excited for what Disney's doing live action wise in the future, especially with like Beauty and the Beast coming up, which is probably one of the most well casted movies ever. Like the cast on that is going to be phenomenal. But did Jungle Book make it into your list? Do you have any thoughts on Jungle Book?
It did not. I did enjoy Jungle Book very, very much. I thought the voice uh, casting and performances across the board, particularly from Bill Murray as Blue, was very, very good. I didn't quite get as sold on the main kid's performance as you were, and I thought that the musical numbers in The Jungle Book were distractingly bad, in my opinion. I did not buy those. They came off as very like surreal and just kind of polarizing to me. It didn't look good. It didn't look like friendly. It just looked weird and like creepy and alien. So I was not a fan of some of the things about Jungle Book, but I overall enjoyed it. It wouldn't make my top 10 though.
Awesome. Well, throw up your next one for April.
My next is actually another independent movie. It's called The Invitation. Have you seen this movie?
I have never even heard of it.
Okay. That's actually the best way to go into it, because I, like you, had never heard of this movie. And I would say don't even look up a plot for this movie, because this really is a movie that just from the opening scene just grabs you. Like, and it just keeps you guessing and guessing, guessing. And then when the explosive, just horrific, crazy ending happens, you were just left totally floored by it. This movie would make Hitchcock proud. I think you should definitely check this movie out. I can't recommend this movie enough. I believe it is on Netflix as well.
That's what I'm doing tonight then. I'll look this one up.
Okay. And I don't have much more to say about that, so I'll move on to my next pick, which is arguably maybe my favorite movie of the year, and that is Everybody Wants Some, directed by Richard Linklater. I adore this movie. Like, I love this movie so much that I saw it 2 nights in a row. This movie is hilarious. It's funny. I think it appeals probably a lot more to men than it would to women, because it's very much about the spirit of like the bro spirit, and just being there for your buddies, and the kind of camaraderie between these baseball players. It basically tells the story of these baseball players the weekend before they start college, and kind of just them trying to find out what they want to do with their future. It's very Linklater-esque, where they have lots of philosophical discussions throughout the movie. But at the same time, this movie was marketed as a spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. And after watching the movie, I can definitely see why, because it is very much like that kind of aimless type of feeling, but at the same time very much in the moment, and very much knows the type of characters that it is telling a story about. I adore this movie. Ryan, did you see this movie?
I didn't get a chance to see it. It came out in only a few theaters in Utah, and one thing or another came up, and I never got of movies to catch with either on iTunes or Redbox or whatever. I loved Dazed and Confused. I looked forward to this one. The trailer did, it advertised a lot that it was the spiritual sequel, like you said, to Dazed and Confused, but it doesn't really have anything to do with that, right? It's just in the same universe or anything.
Well, I imagine it's in the same universe, but none of the same characters. I personally found I hear my voice. Do you have something not plugged in?
Oh.
No, but anyway, I think that fixed it. Now I no longer hear it. Sorry. But no, I personally found this to be it very much, a spiritual sequel. None of the characters were from the same thing, but the main thing I was worried about walking into this movie is would they be able to make a just as appealing cast of characters as the original Dazed and Confused. Dazed and Confused had tons of charismatic actors. Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck was in it. And so this one, can it live up to it, was the question. And I think that these characters some of them might even be more likable and more funny than the cast of Dazed and Confused. So I really love this movie. It had a great soundtrack. It was just a very easygoing, well-made movie. I cannot recommend this movie enough either.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to check that one out then. It's been on my list, so I will definitely get to that. I think we're moving on to May now. Spencer, what's your first one in May?
Actually, I have one more in April. That's
Oh,
Green Room. It came out April 29th, directed by Jeremy Saulnier, who he directed a couple movies before this, but the main one that you probably have heard of is Blue Ruin. Ryan, did you see Blue Ruin?
I didn't, and I want to hear your thoughts on Green Room because during the marketing and stuff, I think Quentin Tarantino went and saw like a screening of it, or maybe he just saw it in the theater, but he had posted and tweeted out that he was floored by this movie, that he thought it was one of the best of the year. And so it's been on my list as well. But like I said, horror, I have to like prep myself to watch. But this one I'm writing down right now to watch this within the next week. Let me know what your thoughts are on this one.
Yeah, this movie is like magnetically good. Like, this is another one that will for sure be in my top 10 favorite of the year just because it is so well made, like so well shot. This movie is gorgeous, even though it's a very contained movie, a self-contained movie. The stylistic choices by Jeremy Saulnier as a director and by the actors and the way that they set up and execute this story is so horrific and explosively violent in moments. And I really can't recommend this movie enough. I wouldn't really call it a horror movie as much as a thriller, a very well executed thriller. There's certainly some horrific imagery that happens in this movie, and there's definitely some scenes that show you some very brutal violence, like some of the most brutally violent imagery of this entire year, I would argue. And yeah, this movie is awesome. Anton Yelchin, it's kind of sad knowing that he passed away after this. I think he was a very talented person. This movie showed that through his performance in this. This movie is phenomenal. I think that April is a very good month for independent movies, and Green Room is no exception. So, are you ready to move on to May?
Yeah. I've got one in May. How many do you have?
I also have one, and that one movie is The Lobster. What is your movie, The Lobster, as well from May?
Yep, we got it.
Okay. So I'll start off, I suppose, with this. This movie reminded me a lot of Charlie Kaufman. I don't know how familiar you are with his filmography, but it was very much a horrific dystopian universe. This movie is very cynical in lots of ways, but I thought that Farrell's performance, I almost say Colin Firth, but Colin Farrell's performance, yeah, no, Colin Farrell's performance was outstanding in this movie. This movie was a genius concept. I don't know, I guess we can get into it. It's basically about this dystopian world where if you are single, you get sent out to this hotel where you have to get into a relationship where you will literally be turned into an animal. Which might not sound too menacing, but wait till you see the movie before you pass that judgment, because this movie really disturbed me on a primal level in lots of ways. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this movie.
It blew me away. I waited in line for almost 2 hours to get into this, and I saw it at Sundance, and it blew me away. And I thought this was going to be my favorite movie of the year. I walked out of it just raving about it. We talked a little bit before off camera that sometimes when you're deciding what's in your top 10, you have to factor in rewatchability. And this isn't one that you're going to want to watch once a week. You're not going to want to watch this maybe once a year or so, but it is so like I said with Deadpool, it is very meta in the fact that it's a dark comedy that strips down tons of ideologies and puts them into a very symbolic, simple tale. And you follow Colin Farrell's character as he goes into this hotel where you have 45 days to find a partner, or else you are going to be turned into an animal, literally. And the symbolism behind this whole movie is so phenomenal. And just the thing that stands out to me the most is how simple they make this story. It handles such big ideas and such big stories, but they were able to strip it down to this very, very simple, like you said, dystopian world and dystopian tale where it just is phenomenally done. You can tell that it isn't necessarily an American film. I think it's Greek. The director is Greek, and you can tell that it's got that kind of foreign tone and pacing to it. It's not a quick ADD movie. It's kind of a slow burn, and you have to get through it. But if you are brave enough to tackle this movie, I would highly suggest it. It is phenomenal. And I think that actually does wrap up May for us. So let's go ahead and move on to June, where I think we've got this both on our list, Hunt for the Wilder People. Let's hear your thoughts about it first.
Yeah, this movie's phenomenal. I really can't imagine anybody disliking this movie just because it is so dang likable from beginning to end. It's heartwarming. It's light entertainment. It's basically just basically like cotton candy is the best way to describe it. It's just like the perfect, sweet little touching movie, and there's really not much more to say about it than that. I think that this kid, I don't know his name, but the little guy who plays the main character in this movie, the little rapper kid, he is hilarious. What a find. I thought that this movie was just magical. I loved it. What'd you think?
I loved it. I'm not even going to attempt to say the director's name because I butch it up every single time, but I've really fallen in love with his work. One of my favorite movies last year was What We Do in the Shadows. And after watching this, I am super excited to see what he does with the next Thor movie. One of his other movies that wasn't very good to me was Eagle versus Shark, which I don't even know why I bring that up, except for I feel like that's probably only his only weak movie. Everything else that he's done that I've seen has been phenomenal. Like you said, very simple tale. The kid is phenomenal. It's a horrendously funny movie, so I would definitely recommend going out to catch it. Spencer, do you have any more in June? I have 2 in June.
In June, I do not have any more movies, so go ahead and go over yours.
Okay, awesome. Another one in June was a Netflix release. Actually, I did catch it in at Sundance. It was one of the second to last one I watched at Sundance, and I walked away just loving it. I guess I've said that about all these movies, but this is just a fun, loving movie starring Paul Rudd, and Selena Gomez is actually in it, and it's a role that you've never seen her play before, but she nails it. At Sundance, I got to listen to the director. He brought the cast out, and they did some Q&A afterwards, and just the vibe there live, as well as the vibe. I've seen this 2 more times on Netflix, and it is just such a happy movie. It's a coming of age movie that I couldn't suggest more. The comedy, I mean, Paul Rudd is such a comedic genius, but just the way the director Rob Burnett is able to handle the comedy in this piece helps you really enjoy and appreciate the coming of age aspect of this, as well as the comedic beats. Have you heard anything about this? Have you seen this one?
I have seen this one. I also enjoyed it. Minor gripes, but nothing really worth mentioning. Paul Rudd's funny in it. It's just like a light, sweet coming of age movie. Kind of in the same vein as Hunt for Wilder People as well, actually, oddly enough. So, yep, seen that
Awesome.
one, enjoyed it.
Cool. This next one it's up there for me. It's also in June. It's going to be The Neon Demon, and I wonder if you've seen this. Have you seen this?
I have. I despised this movie.
What?
I hated the Neon Demon with a passion.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I want to hear why you hated it before I get into what I liked.
I'm more curious to hear as to why you liked it. Nicholas Winding Refn is a director who first got my attention with Drive, which was a very subtle, very well paced, just calm movie that was just explosive, especially towards the end. It was thrilling. It stylistically used Nicholas Winding Refn the best way a movie can. This is like Nicholas Winding Refn unleashed. It's pretentious, it's ugly, it's disgusting. It's particularly like the last 10 minutes of this. It's just like it got to a point where I was like, I mean, I get the message he was going for, but it was literally like student film pretentious art, artsy, just for the sake of being artsy. It was. Have you seen Showgirls? The
Yes,
closest
yeah.
thing to compare this movie to is Showgirls because it's vile, it's disgusting, and it shouldn't have ever been made. I'm sorry, but I totally disagree with you. I'm glad somebody found something out of Neon Demon because when I finished it, I think I literally said something like, "I can't imagine anybody liking that movie." So
Oh my gosh. I really enjoyed it. It's probably lower on the list on my 10, and will probably get kicked out. But I don't know. I thought it was beautiful, cinematography wise, which is something that stands out in every Nicholas Winding Refn movie. Is which he actually I found out is colorblind, which is astonishing that he just gets these fabulous cinematographers on his crew, and they can paint such beautiful pictures. I loved Drive. I really enjoyed Only God Forgives, and this is kind of he talked about this is the next in a trilogy that aren't necessarily like in the same universe, but they have very similar themes and thematic elements. I don't know what it is about this movie that I really liked. I agree with you. The last 10 minutes I checked out, and I was grossed out, and it was disgusting, and I probably didn't eat the rest of the day, and was very hesitant eating the next few days. It was disgusting, but I found very I don't know. There was some very strong parallels, plantings, and payoffs that were in the movie that I didn't catch at first, but going back through it in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh! Like I feel like it was a very good film. In that, I like what you said about being artsy. I feel the other way. I feel like the artsiness really paid off for me. That I appreciated it for what it was. It was a very slow burn, and it at some points it felt like a Terrence Malick film in the sense that it was just a lot of gorgeous pictures for the sake of gorgeous pictures and not much substance behind it. But that I mean that wraps up June. Do you have any final comments on that? We're on opposite ends of the world on that.
No, I'll just agree with you that it was well shot. So that's the very least I have to say about it. I find it very hard to believe that man is colorblind after seeing how much color plays a part in both Only God Forgives and particularly this movie. There's a couple scenes that were really, really cool and it like pulled me in for a second, and then something just ridiculously campy or stupid would happen in this movie, and it would just totally take me back out of everything that was going on. Yeah, I despised this movie. I'm glad you liked it, but I did not enjoy this movie one single bit.
Jeez, all right. Well, I'm glad we were able to have at least that kind of a discussion. Um, what I think we have the same one in July. Do you have multiple in July?
I have no movies from July.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my
nothing.
goodness. Okay,
Yep.
I know you at least enjoyed this movie, Swiss Army Man.
Yeah,
Why
I
why why is it not on your list?
basically it just came down to I did like if we were judging this movie on the first half of it, this movie would probably be in my top five. I really, really thought the setup of this movie was fantastic. The performance by Paul Dano as well as Daniel Radcliffe were both just astoundingly well done. I know lots of people probably are talking about Daniel Radcliffe's performance because his performance is the more peculiar, kind of showy one. But Paul Dano in this movie, he really shouldn't be like overlooked because he gives a very emotionally vulnerable performance that I thought really went to some interesting places in the movie. And when it was kind of messing with what the corpse, Manny, right? Is the corpse's name Manny?
Yeah, Manny.
Yeah, the corpse that Manny could do. That's when I was having the most fun with the movie. It was more the ending, particularly the very, very ending. I didn't think it had the emotional connection that the movie wanted me to have. I didn't personally have. But did I enjoy the hell out of this movie? Was this movie well directed? Yes, absolutely. It was gorgeous. Like, this is one of the most gorgeous movies of the year. Everybody should watch this just to see like how well shot this movie is. Yeah, but go ahead and say what you have to say about, because I mean, I enjoyed it a ton.
Right. This is another one I caught at Sundance. This was the first one I saw at Sundance, and I'll tell you, it was controversial at the moment. It was in a huge theater. I think a theater that held like 1,500 people, and most of the balcony left during the movie. They got about 20 minutes into it and they checked out and they left, which then, you know, spiraled a bunch of multimedia stuff and social media stuff about the farting corpse, which is Daniel Radcliffe. And like you said, I think a lot of people are focusing on Daniel Radcliffe's performance because it is great. And it is the more peculiar one with the farting corpse. And, you know, it's called Swiss Army Man because he turns into this corpse that can be utilized in many fashions like a Swiss Army knife would be. And I loved it so much because it is one of the most original movies that we've seen in a long time. And the Daniel brothers just, maybe they're not brothers. They go by the Daniels, and they're just, you know, on point. Good for them. They came out for the Q&A afterwards, and they said, "Well, we want to make something original. We wanted to, you know, get this together, and we came together with the idea of the Swiss Army knife." And then they said, "We just went to the most far off ways we could. You know, we came up with all these things that Manny could do, and we had to then cut it back, and then we had to talk to the makeup artists and the you know, the people who created the Manny figure, and they said, can we make it do this?" And a lot of the stuff ended up being very practical, a lot of practical effects that they pulled off, which was very refreshing. I really enjoyed the humor. One of my favorite lines was, "If you don't know Jurassic Park, you don't know shit." I laughed my head off. And overall, it was just very, like you said, beautiful. It's like Castaway in the sense that very small. And I think that's something that's kind of echoed throughout most of the films we've been talking about, is a very small cast and a very small environment, very few locations. And the directors who are tackling this are very, very talented and have been able to nail it. There haven't been very many that have tackled something like that this year that have fallen flat. So those are some of my favorite things about Swiss Army Man. Let's move on to August. I know we have the same one. This is one of my favorites of the year. Phenomenal. I don't even know where to begin. I had very low expectations going into this. I don't know why. For some reason, watching the trailer for this one, it made it feel like a cable movie, like a Hallmark even movie. And so when I went into this movie and I was able to see the performances and the pacing and just the overall costume and world design, I bought into this movie within the first 5 minutes. It was phenomenal. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I didn't look up like any marketing for this movie either before. Didn't even know who was in this movie, to be completely honest with you. All I had heard is that you have to see Hell or High Water. So I went and saw this and was completely floored by what I saw. I love the way it incorporates kind of modern issues into it, such as concealed weapons and all that. The way that you utilize that in this world is so interesting. The performances are fantastic in this movie. This screenplay is seriously awesome. I have like almost no complaints about this movie. I really can't think of anything that I have to say about even like some of the side characters in this movie, like were gut punchingly effective. That like little characters that had no business being effective, like Jeff Bridges' partner in this film. I don't know the actor who plays that guy, but even he, just a small character, side character, embodies his character so well, everything about it. And the three central performances, Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, and Ben Foster, in my opinion, they're all Oscar worthy in this movie, particularly Jeff Bridges. I love him in like everything he's in. Yeah, I can't recommend Hell or High Water enough as well.
I'd be very surprised if we don't get. I think it would be a big snub if we don't get at least one nomination out of it. I definitely want to watch it again because I guess thinking back at it now, I can't really decide who would be nominated for what. I guess they would probably go Chris Pine's character for leading actress, and then it would be up in the air as to which of the others they nominate for supporting. But I agree, they were all phenomenal. And just the cinematography in this one was very brilliant in the fact that it's not necessarily one that you would think of when it comes to that. In comparison with like Neon Demon, where it was very, bright and
Showy. Yeah.
Yeah. This was very subtle, and I think that worked miracles for this. Like you said, the script was phenomenal, and I think all of those things lined it up perfectly to be a character piece where the actors were able to shine as much as they did.
Well, and one thing I noticed, like looking through lots of these movies that are on our lists, is that the common element is a lot of these movies are original movies, original films, original stories. They're not sequels, they're not remakes, they're not reboots. And I think the best movies so far this year have been movies that aren't any of those. They're original movies, like Swiss Army Man, like Hell or High Water, or Sing Street.
Sing Street.
Those movies all really just are very original, great movies. So, did you have any movies in September that you wanted to talk about?
No, September and January are just the dumping grounds. Nothing
Okay,
good.
so then we'll move on to October, which I think we both have the same movie, which is The Birth of a Nation, which we just spoke about. So there's really not anything to add with this one as far as I can tell. Do you think this one will probably end up in your top 10 of the year, or do you think that there's a chance it could get kicked out?
I think right now it's going to end up in my top 10. It's definitely going to be, like we said in our review, we'll throw up something right here afterwards, so you can go back and you can watch our review on that we did yesterday. Like we said, it's a very controversial, both the art as well as, everything that happened behind the scenes. And I don't want to get into any of that, but I wonder how much that will affect it come Oscar season, if people will be able to separate it, the art from the artist. This is definitely one that I say you have to go and see. I think you owe it to our nation to go and see this, of how we came to be. And even right now, we've got so much controversial stuff going on in the social media about racism and such. So this is just a very perfect timing kind of movie that I would suggest people go and see.
I completely agree with everything you said. And quickly, I just wanted to ask you, are there any big releases for throughout the rest of the year that you are excited for?
Yeah. I posted on Twitter and Facebook about a month ago my most anticipated for the rest of the year. I I'll boil it down and just mention the one that I'm the most excited for, and that would be La La Land, by Damien. Ooh, what's his last name?
Damien Chazelle.
Chazelle. I almost said Walters, but that's like a stunt guy. Damien Chazelle. He did Whiplash, which did really well at the Oscars 2 years ago, I want to say. And I've been anticipating. The trailers have really sold me on this. There's been lots of buzz about it at Telluride as well as TIFF. I think I want to call it now that I'm thinking La La Land will be, if not one of the most close runners up, I think it's going to win Best Picture. I'm very excited for it. Do you have any that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I have a couple. I'll only mention two though. My two most anticipated movies till the end of the year are Manchester by the Sea, directed by Kenneth Lonergan, and Silence, directed by Martin Scorsese. Especially Silence. I'm extremely excited to see. I know this is a passion project that Martin Scorsese has been trying to get made for over 20 years, and it's been through lots and lots of hands, and I feel like if that's the case and he's been that passionate about it, then this could very well be his masterpiece. And I think this could be the movie that could debunk La La Land and maybe be in the be the top contender for Best Picture, I'd imagine.
And just because you brought up Manchester by the Sea really quick, I'm really looking forward to that. It had phenomenal reviews coming out of Sundance when I was there, and I'm upset that I didn't get a chance to catch it. But I think that one's going to be big, especially for actors' performances in the Oscars. So we'll see how that one comes up.
I totally agree with you. Well, everybody, thank you very much for watching our video, Cinemaholics. I hope that everybody has a great evening. I hope that we give you some picks that you can go and watch and seek out and be thoroughly entertained by. My name is Spencer, and I'm a Cinemaholic.
Awesome. I am Ryan, and I am a Cinemaholic. You couldn't talk at the beginning, and now I can't talk at the end. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Rye_Gordon. You've heard ours now. Go ahead in the comments or on Twitter or whatever, let us know what your top 10 are. Let us know what you think of these movies. If you've seen them, if you haven't seen them, as we've said, we definitely recommend you go and check them out. Spencer, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at SpinnyHand.
So awesome. Thank you guys again for watching. We will be seeing you. I think our next video will be coming up Sunday again, and we'll be talking about The Accountant. So make sure you subscribe so that you can catch that one as soon as it comes out.